everyone, it's Shel C from PaperOcotilloStudio. Today I'm sharing with you a speed up version of the live stream show that happened on 10/11/18. We were talking about surrealism and the surrealism movement, which was from approximately 1920 to 1960, and it was started by the idea of the conscious versus the subconscious mind. That time in between sleep and when you're awake, you have that really creative period of time, and you might have these interesting and creative thoughts. And if you write them down when you wake up before you forget, which we all do, you'll come up with some really interesting stuff. And that is what surrealism is about. The most famous artist that did surrealism is probably Salvador Dali, and he did the melting clocks. I'm sure you guys have all seen the melting clocks. It's a fascinating art movement, and I really think that it's fun to play with it. There are a lot of ways that you can get your mind into this, little games you can play yourself, like taking a short article and cutting it up into words and putting all the words in a bag and then pulling them all out one by one to rewrite it and to come up with some different thing with the same words. That's fun. Also, even something like that game that you used to play called Telephone, where you would say something to someone and continue it down a line, and by the end it would be something completely different. That's a type of a conscious versus subconscious, things that we hear versus what they actually are, type of an exercise. So it's a lot of fun. So I decided to do a surrealistic piece using collage, because if I was to try to draw and paint, this would take me more than an hour and a half, and our show is an hour and a half on Thursdays at 8:30 Pacific time every Thursday, unless one of us is traveling or something like that. So I have some magazine images that are cut out, and although it appears I am randomly putting them on the page, and by the way, this is a homemade gel print journal with a sewn binding. So the paper in the background is a gel print, just to start out with. I could have used white paper and put something on it or whatever, but I started out with the hand at the bottom, which was like an old farmer's hand that had coffee beans in it. It was from a coffee bean ad, and I thought that would be a great base for my collage, because I was thinking about what's in my mind and what I hold in my hands. And so I used that braid, like a woman's braid that was kind of a coppery red color, because it matched the background pretty well, and I put that in the background, and then I put the hand at the bottom, and then I'm filling up. The braid is to remind you of mind or thought, because it looks like the back of someone's head, and then the hand is to remind you what your brain holds. And then all these other images that I put on there had meaning to me, had meaning, what I'm thinking about in my mind. And I know it doesn't look like that, but the really awesome thing about surrealism is that it's representative of what the artist is trying to express or thinking about or feeling, but it doesn't necessarily come across so easily. If you see, a still life painting of an apple in a pitcher on a table, that's an apple in a pitcher on a table. You know what that means. You know that the artist was looking at that when they painted it, and they made it realistic, and that's what it looked like. Or a portrait, they were looking at a woman, they drew the portrait, and it may not look exactly like the woman, but it is the artist's representation of that thing. When you're looking at a surrealistic painting or piece, in this case collage, which is a great way to experiment with surrealism if you want to. Collage is a great way to do it, because it's quick and easy, and it has meaning without you really understanding when you're looking at it. So since I enjoy puzzles and I enjoy deep thinking and I enjoy challenges, I love surrealistic art, because I can look at it and think to myself, what does it mean? What does it mean to me? What might it have meant to the artist? And that's what I find absolutely fascinating, and I love it. I love it. You know, and it's weird. It's weird stuff. So at the end, I'll tell you what all those images meant. But we had an hour and a half, and I finished my collage by doing some shading with Stabilo All pencil, which is a water reactive pencil, and then, of course, bleeding out the shading with a water tank brush, which has water in it, so you know I can make the shadows doing that. And then I added some highlights with a white Posca pen, which is an acrylic paint in a white pen, and I also used my water brush with that. And then I added some copper splatters, which didn't make it on the film. A lot of this is cut and choppy because this was a live stream and I'm only putting in the parts that I was on camera. So there's other parts where Peg was on camera because we do it together as a team. So I decided to do a different quick collage in the same type of an idea. This one is about flow and how one thing can flow to another in your thought stream, which is strange how that works. But if you just are loosely thinking about something or nothing, not even thinking about something, but thinking about nothing, how your thoughts go from one thing to another. And it's pretty crazy to think about that. And you know, you might start out with thinking about, oh, the weather's nice outside, or looking at the beautiful weather, and then that brings you to a flower and how maybe next spring they'll be flowering. Right now they're not. And then you know, it goes to the sky and the stars in the sky, and then it moves on to the mountains, and then maybe it goes to what you want to eat for dinner. You don't know. You never know. That's flow. That's how brains free associate, and I find that activity really enjoyable as well, to just sit and let my brain go from one thing to another. We all do that. We do it in our free time. We're not thinking about it. So I also finished this one up. I put some ink around the edges, which I did on the other one too, but I forgot to mention it. And then I used my Faber-Castell Pitt artist pens, which are an India ink pen, to do some shading around the edges. And I used my white Posca pen to do highlights. And then I used a stamp set with alphabet letters to stamp the word flow, outlined it with the white pen. So that's how this one was finished up. I hope that you guys will play some games with yourself and maybe do a little bit of surrealistic collage yourselves. You can just cut some stuff out from magazine pages, and you know, you can do it while you're watching television, sitting in your chair. You can trim it out with some sharp scissors and keep them in a basket. And then when you want to do something like this, just bring them out and play with them. That's fun. So here is my finished first one. I've got the fat cat there and the shovel to shovel some stuff. And I've got the freedom of the butterfly, the freedom of the cosmos, vanity by the mirror, clean eating by the salad. You know, it's all that type of stuff. It's what I was thinking about. So I hope you've enjoyed this. Please remember to give it a thumbs up, leave me a comment or question, subscribe if you haven't already. That's it for me. Thanks. Bye-bye.